Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on the Movies. And today we are doing episode 4 of The Penguin. And I had to look it up. It looks like Cent Ani, but it's pronounced, it's an Italian toast called Cent Ani. And it means, may you live 100 years. So, anyway.
It's time for me to talk about the episode, Safi.
Okay.
So this episode starts off, and one of the things I liked about this episode was that you saw the end of last week's episode from a different perspective, and the way that, you saw a different perspective of the same events is, a really good storytelling device, because, typically in movies and shows, from what I've seen, sometimes they do that, but it's really not effective. They'll just show the same event, but from a different camera angle, and it's there you go, that's the different perspective. But this episode actually showed a real different perspective of Sophia. It's kind of an interesting one because a lot of people have been talking online, and we'll talk about it after, we say what happens in the full episode, but a lot of people have been saying, oh, we can't root for the Penguin anymore, and it's what? Because what happens is, basically, when he's got a gun to his head, he just completely gives up Sophia. He admits to killing that guy. Well, the woman says it, but then he confirms it, and he says, I was just using her to get this and that, and, he was basically selling her out. But the thing is that you guarantee that if the roles were opposite, she would have done the same thing.
Probably.
Sophia. She would have given him up in 2 seconds. And you know why? Because in the rest of the episode, they show the backstory. They show the way that she treated him in the past. All that she thought of him was that he was the driver. So she would have given him up easily if she were in that kind of a situation. So I just think that's funny. Now people are uh-oh, you can't like the Penguin anymore because he got himself, what was he doing? He was doing the same thing that anyone else would have done, except for the part where he left her. That was the only part where, but at the same time, he admitted to killing her brother, and she probably would not have been happy with that. So, no. It's kind of a conflicting situation because, yeah, he's not a good guy. I mean, we've never said he's a good guy. But he is very likable, charismatic, and I think he's highly entertaining, and that I'm rooting for him still. I'm rooting for him, and I'm rooting for Sophia. And that's another weird thing, is that this seems to happen in a lot of modern TV shows, where you have a male character and a female character, and you're not allowed to root for the male character because they paint him as having done bad things, but then you have another female character who's also done bad things, and for some reason you're supposed to only root for her. And it's something that, we saw that with Better Call Saul. Jimmy was the main character of the show. He was the one you were rooting for. And
the title of the show had his name in it.
Yeah.
Nobody else.
But then in season 4, all of a sudden, they made him look like a bad guy. They made her look like the good guy, even though she was awful. She was way worse than he ever was. And you were supposed to root for her, and you were supposed to root against him, even though he's the main character of the show. And this is something that continues to happen now. And the funny thing is that I don't even think the people who made the show intended for the audience to turn on Oswald Cobblepot because he gave up Sophia. Because, throughout the episode, you see this dynamic between them, and she did not think of him as an equal. And, there was only one moment where she ever said anything good, where she was like, hey, don't call him the Penguin. But other than that, it's she did not even like him or anything. And so why the fuck would he, risk his life just to save her or anything like that? Like, in fact, like, I would defend his decision in giving her up like that in that situation, that very specific situation. What do you think, Safi? Because I just can't understand why people are now like, oh my god, the penguin is so evil. Oh my god, he's so evil. It's like, guess who killed people in this episode, Safi? Who killed people in this episode?
Well,
She did.
Sophia is. We'll have to go to tell the whole story, I guess. But
Well, we will.
She's accused of that, and she didn't do it. But in the end, she did.
Yeah, she killed one person in Arkham, and then she massacred her whole family at the end of the episode. So, like, it's really bizarre to me. Like, you have this guy, he's a shady criminal guy. He's not an honest guy for the most part. He's very, very selfish. And he gave up this person that he's working with and sold her out. You have that decision versus killing all those people. Which one's worse? That killing people? That one's worse. Objectively. No matter what her intentions were, that other one is a lesser...
They both have a past.
Yeah, well, they both aren't good characters. Like, they both are villains.
Right, they're both villains.
She's a villain. She's not a heroic character. Just because she had 10 years of torture in Arkham, that doesn't make her a hero character. So it's this really weird thing now where, like, now people are saying that, like, she's the hero and he's the villain. Like,
no.
Well,
not after this episode.
That's retarded.
Well,
like, she's likable and I'm rooting for her as well, but, like, she's not a hero at all. She killed a little girl's mother and everything. We'll get to that. So, but talk about that opening part, Safi. What do you think, Safi?
Well, I liked it too. I liked where they connect things together.
Yeah.
And then also they showed the perspective, like, because we were all saying, and even the driver for the Penguin, he said, "What about Sophia? Shouldn't we get her too?" And so, we're thinking the same things. Why didn't they get her?
And you see now why he didn't get her.
But
because she found those things out, and she would have killed him if they picked her up, probably, or something. I don't know.
I thought, well, maybe they took her. That's because this was before the episode aired. And no, she was able to hide. And then I think she passed out while she was hiding. So they never found her.
Well, but Safi, what do you think about Oswald's decision to give her up like that? I mean, do you think it's such a horrible thing? I mean, it's bad, but it's not like the worst thing that he's ever done.
No.
The worst thing that he...
And she'd do the same thing. I mean, there's no... It's just like...
They're criminals.
Isn't there some kind of thing? There's no honor among thieves.
Yeah.
That's kind of a thing. So, it's not surprising.
No, the Penguin never would have done something like that.
And whatever, I think it's going to work out. I don't know how. Well, what's going to happen now after we saw what happened at the end of this episode.
I just feel like no matter what, they're really good together, working together, and I feel like, like they have a good dynamic. This isn't like a situation like in Smallville where Clark Kent is friends with Lex Luthor and then they become enemies. Like, this seems like a situation where they're just both criminals and they honestly could make a really good team. Like, when I first heard about the show, I thought that she was like his love interest and that she was going to be like the Penguin's queen. And I thought, like, ooh, that's pretty cool. So I hope that it gets to that point because then she probably won't get killed. That's probably the only way she's not going to get killed at the end of the show.
Well, I never thought that, but even the characters in the show, I think the Iranian woman, she's not Iranian in the show, but that's her background. It's just because she's been on other shows I'm familiar with.
What the
But she
fuck?
said she implied that she thought they had a thing as well.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
But they didn't. But
I
anyway.
think they should. And it's funny because when they do, the people on Twitter
go crazy.
Oh my god! She's dating the penguin! He's a bad guy and she's a hero! She's the hero that Gotham needs! That's what they're gonna do. And it's like, really?
I don't
really?
think so. I don't think so.
She's a mafia woman.
Yeah.
But anyways, the rest of the episode is all about her backstory.
Which I was thankful for.
I was as well, because now we're done with backstories. We don't have to learn any more exposition dumps for the most part. Or we might. I don't know. We might see some penguin flashbacks. But basically, it's the story of her father, Carmine. He is the real killer. He is the real hangman. He killed all these girls.
And her mother.
And he blamed it on Sophia and sent her to Arkham.
Because a reporter came up to her and she decided to meet with the reporter. She wanted to see what the reporter had and what the reporter wanted. Well, in their culture or the father's beliefs, you're not supposed to talk to the press ever. And so she did the unthinkable. And he had her taken to Arkham and said she was responsible for all those murders. But the thing I didn't like, there's just one thing I didn't like. And that is, she was taken away there and they said she'd be there until the trial, right? And so many months, like, 6 months or whatever it was. But then her brother came to visit her and said, "You're not getting a trial." And that just isn't right. That doesn't happen. I'm sorry.
That doesn't.
I don't even know why they did that.
I don't either. But
they could have still had her in there.
I really
was stacking up the evidence against her, and she still would have been in there. But the thing they say, you're not going to get a trial. That's not right.
Yeah, that doesn't happen in real life. That's against the Constitution.
Yeah, and even other.
Anyways, what I really loved about the story was it really felt like a classic Batman story without Batman in it. It felt like a story that you learn about in one of the Arkham games. Like, it felt like you could make a DLC to Batman Arkham Asylum all about Sophia being in there, and it would make total sense. And so I really thought this episode was good. My biggest problem with the episode was the lack of explanation around when and where events were taking place.
Yeah, we both talked about this.
It was just like the original Dawn of the Dead, where I could not really tell how much time was passing. I could not tell sometimes when and where events were taking place. There's this really confusing transition where all of a sudden she's out and she's talking with the therapist. And honestly, his character continues to be the weirdest character of the show.
I don't understand
because
it.
At first they made him seem like he's a rapist or something, but then apparently he's not, but they have some kind of romantic connection, but they don't. It's like, I really don't understand his character at all, but she's just suddenly out, and apparently he helped get her out or something, and that they don't really show that, and
I don't know about that.
It was really confusing to me. I didn't like that part.
I thought he was the one who rescued her when she passed out after that. After those people drove up, and then Oswald's driver ran over some of them.
Oh.
I thought that's what that was.
Oh.
I don't think he had anything to do. That's another thing. That is a thing, though. We don't know how she got out.
See, I'm confused. See, I'm like,
well, my thing.
Like what? Like,
what I think she was supposedly in there. She said this in the episode. 10 years.
Yeah, 10
and
years.
And I would never have known that ever.
I wouldn't have either.
I couldn't have told that.
That
at
was
all.
really not well done.
But the thing is, you have somebody locked away like that. Basically, they're a prisoner, and they didn't get a trial, which is unconstitutional. Yeah. And then after 10 years, she gets out. How? Well, I guess it's because her father was killed, and he no longer pressed the buttons of the head
Yeah.
administrator who kept her locked up there.
What I don't understand
That's the only thing I could.
What I don't understand is why she was being punished, because she didn't have anything to be punished for. Like, they could have kept her in there, but why did they? Why? I mean, it just shows to me. Another thing about this episode is it shows, like, there's a reason why people go and come back to Arkham. Like, they get out and they come back and they get out and they come back. It's because the place is terrible, and it's really not about rehabilitating people at all.
No.
It's basically like a torture dungeon, which is what she calls it. And so it really doesn't make Batman look like a good character at all either, because he's supposed to be a superhero, and he's taking these... I mean, just imagine, like, there's a young thug who steals something at a store, and then Batman ties him up. He gets sent to Arkham, and he gets tortured for 10 years. Like, that's really not, like, a fair thing. And so, like, you just think about, like, Batman is a character in this specific universe. Like, he needs to be kind of reevaluated, because, I mean, he's already unlikable because he's Twilight Boy.
Yeah.
But, you just look at this place and you're like, wow, no wonder nobody's getting better. And no wonder Gotham is so terrible. Like, you have all these people who are getting abused and tortured all the time. They had this one girl, she was going so crazy that she killed herself with a fork. And then there was another girl, which this is something to bring up. Safi doesn't know this, but there was this girl named Magpie, and she's from the comics. And I don't really know that character from the comics, but I thought that was kind of cool that they had that other little smaller character. I've never seen her before, but I've heard of her, so I thought that was cool.
Oh.
That was a creative thing to do. And I'm not saying the episode is bad. I'm just saying these are my critiques and discussion points to talk about of, like, Arkham is a bad place. And,
Well, the thing is, we've known all along that she had been in Arkham, but you're thinking, a few months or a year, and to me it's just shocking that she was there for a decade.
I mean, how does Batman see people that he sends to Arkham? It feels like he's like a Count Dracula keeping people in a dungeon and being like, yay, all those people are in that horrible dungeon, and I can, I can just put more people in there. Like, let's just keep on loading up the asylum. Like, that's the solution to things.
Yeah, but you don't really see the people he's putting in there as real people.
Yeah.
Like, let's say...
But
now
do.
You see the Penguin
Now you
as
do.
Penguin, but you don't see, like, the Scarecrow or Mr. Freeze or who else? Catwoman or...
you didn't see Catwoman as a real person after the last movie?
No,
She was a main character.
Yeah. The Joker, but I'm thinking about the cartoon and the oh, for heaven's sakes.
But Safi, just don't say anything more about that.
Okay, but it's just
strange.
strange. It's just strange that she was there for 10 years. I just can't get over it.
This episode puts everything in a whole new perspective.
Yes, it does.
But you also see backstory of her before prison, treating Oswald like crap, and you know that he's very sensitive to these things. He doesn't take kind. Yeah, he remembers. And there was this part in the episode where it reminded me so much of a Telltale video game, because what they do in those video games, and they have Batman ones, is that you have to choose dialogue, and if you say something inflammatory or something really nice, they'll put on the screen, this character will remember that. I like to tell you, and to hint at you that that's going to influence what they do later on. And so to me, there was like a clear moment in this episode where she was like, you're a nothing. You're just a driver, idiot. And they showed his face, and he was like, he made his scowl face.
Well, isn't that when she went to see the reporter, though?
No, but that was a moment where it would have been the Penguin will remember that. Because he did. And it's like, see, like, and they showed all that stuff too, and all the people who said that, like, she's a hero now and he's a bad guy, like, they totally ignore that part, you know, they totally ignore how she treated him in the past, because, like, I don't know why, it's this weird thing now, where with every TV show, that's how it turns out. Like, if you look at every single one, right, Safi, like, just name a TV show.
Name a TV show that what?
Yeah, just name a TV show that came out this year that we both have seen.
Well, I'll just get one that you've seen. How about that old man show?
Well, Safi, that's different because the old man is weird.
How about Fargo?
Fargo season 5?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that was different because she was already the good guy at the start of that wouldn't work.
Well, I was just going to say that Penguin is the one who told her father that she met with the reporter.
Yeah, and that was another thing that he did, to be fair. But he was also just trying to...
well, he's trying to... I don't know, what was he trying to do?
I think
help the father?
No,
he graces with the father?
Yeah, he was trying to brown-nose the father and get him good with the father. And it didn't really work out very well because then the father got killed and he had to do things himself.
Yeah.
So, but it's like he's just... You can see that this Penguin character, he's all about himself for the most part, except for Victor.
Well, I think he's surviving.
Yeah.
I think it's survival.
He's a survivor. And so, she's also a survivor too.
Yeah, she is.
So it's this weird thing of like, okay, they're both survivors. Like, why are you saying he's a bad guy and she's not?
Why can't they just work together? But, of course, we'll see what happens now after she's killed her whole family.
Yeah, so then what happens is that they show her out of the asylum, and it's the present day, and they have this amazing dinner scene. One of my favorite things in movies and shows is dinner scenes, where you have all these different characters sitting around a table talking to each other. They had a really nice dinner scene where she basically roasted all of them and told them all, like, you all wrote, like, letters to the judge saying I was mentally ill, and you betrayed me, and screw you. And
see, they were expecting she was leaving the next day for Italy, and they'd never see her again.
Yeah. And then she took the little girl out. There's only one little girl, and then she killed everyone else almost with gas. And I thought that was cool. That was really cool. I mean, this whole episode really felt like it was straight out of a comic book. It really felt like you could have... Safi's shaking her head no.
No, it just felt like a mafia thing.
Safi's never read a comic book before.
I haven't read too many, that's true.
Yeah, so she wouldn't know. So, but like this was straight out of a comic book, this episode. Like, even though I've ragged on a couple of things, like, I really like this episode. I give it an A-.
Me too.
Just my biggest issue was the passage of time.
Yeah.
And explaining where things were. It was kind of confusing. Maybe it was just because I was, I don't know. I mean,
I wasn't
really
expecting it to be 10 years. That's one thing I wasn't expecting.
Didn't they already mention it before, though, Safi?
Maybe, but it was so quick. And the way they did it this time, I mean, they showed what she was there for. And see, her father had intended for her to take over. And because the brother, wasn't he addicted to drugs or an alcoholic or something? And when she betrayed him, which going to a reporter, and even though she didn't tell the reporter anything, just going there was a betrayal. He would never give her, that's why he had her committed, and he was so angry. And it just kills me because, you know, she saw her mother as a little girl hanging.
Yeah.
And her father did that. And it's unbelievable. So,
Well, I like seeing more of the brother, too, because...
No, we don't get to see much of him before.
It was nice, again, to see a different perspective and to see she wasn't really a bad person before she went to Arkham, although she was still a mafia person. I mean, that's the other thing, is like pretending like she never would have killed anyone if she hadn't have gone to Arkham, pretending like she never would have done anything bad if she hadn't have gone to Arkham, is like a complete delusional fantasy. She's a part of the mafia.
And it's, you think of probability. Plus the fact if she was going to be in control of the whole thing eventually. Yeah, she probably would have.
Yeah.
She wouldn't have. I mean, that's the only way they can control things is through power and offing people.
Bullying, torture, murder, cheating, bribing, all sorts of things. She would have had to do all those things regardless.
Yeah, there's no whitewashing.
Pretending like she's some kind of a hero is just mentally retarded. So I really like the episode. I do think that last week's episode was better because I thought it was more emotional. I like Victor's arc, but I still really like this episode as well. And I liked all the episodes so far. I mean, this really has turned out to be probably the best show of the year.
Probably. But it's not like we've seen all the... And there's still stuff coming out.
Yeah, but what?
I don't know.
Nothing.
There's a certain reviewer who he keeps reviewing. He shows. I'm like, God, what is that? And where is that? And so
the old man isn't going to beat the Penguin.
No, not at all. Freckleface and weirdo Judge Amy.
No, Freckleface is dead.
You said she might not be dead.
Well, we don't know yet. It's a spy show. They could they could do a twist.
Of course.
Probably. Because that's been the big problem with the old man. One of the big problems is that in every single episode, they shift the perspective to the point of where it's very confusing. It's very complicated. And you keep on... There's all these twists every single episode. It makes things very, very confusing. And this was an example of how to do it in a good way, to where we got to see Sophia's perspective for this one whole episode.
The brother's perspective.
Yeah, the father's perspective. The father.
And the Penguin.
And what defense does the father have at this point?
None.
He's bad.
He's a bad boy.
Like, he did all that to his own daughter. It's
his own daughter.
He really deserved what he got in the Batman movie.
But the only thing is there's no such thing as nobody getting a trial.
Yeah.
It just doesn't... It may not be the best trial. You may not have the best legal representation.
Well, you saw what happened with the Menendez brothers. They had a trial. It was all biased against them. They said things like men aren't able to be raped because they don't have the V word. So it's not physically possible for men to be raped.
I don't know anything about that.
And they got put in prison for their whole lives.
Yeah,
and
but
so,
they're looking into it. I don't know all the details.
For no reason, for no fucking reason. And so it's the same type of thing where it would have been the same type of thing. She would have gotten a trial, and they would have done the Menendez brothers treatment on her, and she would have gotten put away.
Oh, yeah. I'm not saying that, but just the fact she didn't have one is stupid. I'm sorry. I've watched too much legal stuff in the last few years to know it's just not true.
Even in Joker 2, Joker was having a trial.
Oh, yeah.
Even though that was a piece of shit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Right, Safi? Like, this show's a million times better than Joker 2.
I'm not even thinking, God, that movie was so terrible.
Yeah.
I just can't think of anything good about it.
See?
That would be a logical thing to have a trial because he murdered somebody on TV. So, yeah. Yeah, he had a trial, all right. So, anyway, that's it. We both liked it, and we recommend it. We recommend you watch the whole thing. And don't forget, the actor who's playing the Penguin has done an amazing job with his makeup, his voice, his accent.
I bet that he was
everything.
He was relieved he didn't have to do anything this episode. He was like, okay, finally I can take this fucking suit off. I can take this fucking fat suit off and just watch Sophia for an hour.
And plus the limp and the foot. And, anyway.
And I have to scowl 24/7 so that I can do this voice. That's the only way the voice is fully effective, if you scowl while you're doing it.
And he's Irish. He has so he has to make an American accent, but not just any American accent, like a mafia.
Let's see you do it, Safi.
No, I can't do it.
Do it.
I can't do it.
Do it.
New Jersey.
Do it.
Cut it out.
Do the penguin.
No, I'm not going to do the penguin.
Do it.
Okay, stop doing that.
Do an impression of Sophia.
Anyway,
do an impression of...
I can't do that either.
Do an impression...
But I'm wondering if she is from the East Coast or she had to make up an accent too.
You've seen her before too, Safi.
I don't know in what.
Fargo season 2, she was the wife of the sheriff.
Oh, that was her?
Who had cancer.
Oh, yeah.
And then she was
That is her.
She was in Wolf of Wall Street for 30 minutes. Or
I don't remember that.
10 minutes.
I do remember her.
She was in
She was sick.
Yeah.
In the Fargo episode. She had some kind of terrible sickness.
And I didn't like her in Fargo. I thought that she was boring and dull.
I thought she was okay. I don't think she was meant to play a big significant part.
No, her character was a little character, but from this show, she definitely deserves an award. Like I would say, like at the Emmys next year, it's just going to be the Penguin Emmys. It's just going to be the Penguin winning everything. But then again, like the Emmys suck too. They did this weird thing. And this is probably the last thing we should say. They did this really weird thing where Freddie Highmore from Bates Motel, he got nominated for playing Norman Bates in Bates Motel Season 4. And because he did a really good job. But then for Season 5, he didn't get nominated at all. And it felt like such a strange thing because, like, if you watch Seasons 4 and 5... Season 5 was the last season. He definitely did a lot more acting in Season 5. And it was a lot more dramatic and emotional stuff, too. And you think about what is the logic behind... He was really good in Season 4, but he wasn't good enough in Season 5. Like, that just doesn't make any sense at all. That's like a total slap in the face. I mean, the Emmys are really dumb.
I don't know.
What do you think about that, Safi?
I was very sad that this Fargo season 5 that I don't know her real name. I apologize. The girl who played the main character, the one that gets kids, she didn't get any.
Why don't you? What's your favorite candy bar?
What? Baby Ruth?
Why don't you call her your Baby Ruth?
Oh God. So anyway, yeah, whatever. So it's a good show. We both recommend it, and it hasn't been disappointing. And
like other shows.
Yeah, and they were very creative with these perspectives, which I appreciated, and I was glad that they did these backstories. Sometimes these backstories can be boring and dull. So all of the backstories that they've shown, they've been just the opposite. So
yeah, in some ways, I kind of dread backstory episodes because it always feels like the same thing, especially if you've ever seen The Walking Dead. Oh,
no, I haven't
God.
Seen any of those.
There's so many episodes where, okay, let's go show a backstory for this boring side character, and then at the end they get killed, and it's like, ugh. Maybe it's just because of that show. Like, every single season there would be like 2 or 3 backstory episodes, and at a certain point it just got to be too much.
Yeah.
And then that show ended, and now there's still shows coming out that are like spin-off shows that nobody cares about. Right, Safi?
I never hear anything about any of those. But anyway, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and become one of our subscribers. And I don't know, to tell Marco, when I sell things, because I'm a reseller, I sent a thank you note for their sale. I've been putting down what we're reviewing on our YouTube channel, so I don't know if that helps, but if you've seen that and you appreciate it, let me know. So I'll still continue to do it. I just started doing that. I could have been doing that all along, but both Marco and I don't review every single thing together. He reviews a lot more because he is the main facilitator of the channel, but there are things that we do together, like the penguin, for example. So anyway, I just wanted to drop that little note in there, and goodbye, everybody.
Bye.